HSBC is planning to cut 35,000 jobs over the next 3 years. What is this telling us about one of the world's largest banking giants?
Well, I think it's telling us about how HSBC is trying to get their business in line, particularly in the US and Europe, where they're facing a fair bit of margin pressure, and in the US they don't have the scale they need to compete with the large American banks.
Okay, Alison?
Well, I think what this is telling us is that this bank is 155 years old, and it's one of the biggest restructurings that it's ever gone through, and the third since the global financial crisis. So it is struggling with a myriad of problems, from coronavirus to Brexit. So, and it's trying to do something about it.
So Chad, you've been covering this extensively. What will this strategy shift by its interim chief, Noel Quinn, mean for the bank's businesses in Hong Kong?
Well, in Hong Kong, it's a unique opportunity. So they're going to take money out of the US and take money out of Europe that hasn't been properly deployed, and they'll be able to use it now in Asia, and they're sort of doubling down their bet on Asia.
Okay, when we talk about coming over to Asia, Alison, you've been covering the financial markets across Asia for years. So I want to ask you, is it the right time for them to focus more on Asia? We're facing the challenges of the US China trade war, Hong Kong unrest, and now an epidemic outbreak.
Well, yes, walking around the streets right now, you wouldn't think so, would you? It's tough out there with the economic slowdown. But this bank has to do something. It's facing a lot of pressure from its shareholders to reinvest in growth markets. And if you take the very long-term view, then it's clear that Asian economic growth is going to outpace that of Europe and the US.
Well, let's dig a little bit deeper because, Chad, 8 virtual banks are expected to go online in Hong Kong later on this year. And we've covered this extensively on South China Morning Post. What kind of challenge will that present to HSBC and other big traditional banks?
Well, HSBC decided not to go get a virtual banking license. It thinks its digital-only operations are going to be able to compete properly with the virtual banks in Hong Kong. But the issue for them is going to be on margins. They're going to face pressure on interest rates. They're going to face pressure on certain products, possibly on payments. And so for them, it is a unique challenge in terms of how can we make money in Hong Kong, and will it cut into our bottom line too much?
And for the bigger picture, Alison?
Well, market pundits say that these virtual banks are probably going to accrue around 2 to 3% of the assets. Not massive, but meaningful. And if they're really going to survive, they're going to have to get those payrolls transferred over to get a stable funding base. But what we can really say is this is a wake-up call to the incumbents out there to improve their customer service, or they're going to lose business.
Well, the big chat is, for HSBC, when will they name this new leader? And will that be a challenge to Quinn's ability to, execute this new strategy, that, the pivot to Asia, so to speak?
Well, I think the big issue for Quinn and many investors was they expected HSBC to have a decision by now. They said in August, when he was chosen as the interim CEO, that they were going to have a decision in 6 to 12 months. Many people thought it was going to come before the strategy was unveiled to the world. Well, it hasn't happened now, and the strategy's out there. So the question is, will Quinn be a lame duck CEO, or will someone else have to come in and take it over and try to execute? HSBC's chairman, Mark Tucker, says he thinks they can do it, they support the plan, and they're behind it. So we'll see.
Alison, your final thoughts?
Well, this has been a very public audition for Noel Quinn. He obviously wants the job, but he's been through everything that we've discussed. It's like a trial by fire. So investors were quick to question the wisdom of not having a confirmed leadership team to execute that strategy, and they sent the shares down 6%, biggest fall I think for 11 years. So that was the message from the markets. But what we can say is that the chairman, Mark Tucker, for now, is keeping his cards very close to his chest.
Well, Alison and Chad, keep a close eye on this story for us as the bank tries to reinvent itself once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.